Sound test 1, 2, and 3. Twitch seems to work great. What about YouTube? I see. Wrong title. Okay, let's modify that. We'll start. Let's see. We'll start in 5 minutes, the actual stream. Oh, and on Twitch we also have an incorrect title. Annoying. Can I highlight? Yes, I can. I hope now descriptions are correct. And YouTube chat works great. If I do test 6, my message I think also is copied correctly. This thing we want to hide. And what about the commands on Twitch? Link, LeetCode. That works. Okay, I think we're ready. For some reason now I don't see comments from YouTube, even though it worked like 2 minutes ago. So here I need to connect. What, half a minute left? I think that's doable. Okay, I guess I need to leave with this. So even though it worked, everything worked 2 minutes ago, I removed some old stream from the test stream from today, and now it stopped working. So on the screen, I'm not able to highlight messages from YouTube. Well, that's life. All right, time to start the stream. Welcome everybody. I didn't have much time for the past 2 months to do anything, but now I do have time, and I would normally postpone maybe for next week. Only now I have time to just do anything online, like to stream. I would maybe postpone for next week, but already yesterday the LeetCode yearly promo started, this thing, and you can use my code as well also to get $40 off, but plus to get me some commission as well. So in the, for example, on YouTube video description, you will find the link. So if you're going to anyway buy the subscription for LeetCode Premium, please use my link. That's also what actually pushed me to stream this weekend, not the next one. Now for this Biweekly contest, I did not participate yet. I'm going to do it now. I have not seen the practice in virtual mode. Can I click not now? Okay, start practice. Sure, okay, let's do it. Minimum number of flips to reverse binary string. To reverse it. And we are given, what, an integer. 7 it looks like this, 10 looks like that. First of all, we need to understand binary format. I think there is a command for that, but I'm going to just create a string. While n is positive, insert a new character, which is this plus n modulo 2. This is how you can extract the last bit. Now we have the string, and I want to reverse it. So 1 changes with 0, for example. I need to count the number of bits that differ after that. So first, incorrect code for a moment. For every position, if this is different than the opposite, like 0 character different than the last, and so on, then I need to do some changes plus plus. Now, is this correct? Because first character will be counted and then last character is counted, but I guess that's okay. For every character from the start to the end, if it needs to be changed, we change it. I think that should work. For such an easy problem, the time complexity doesn't work. Hit play. For 7-0, well, not very useful. Wrong answer. For 10, it's also 0. What did I do wrong? N, of course not n. This should be length of the string, so let me overwrite. It's generally not a good practice to reuse the same variables, So if n before meant something else, then I shouldn't use it for length of the string, but it's the simplest change here, accepted. Okay, what is the easiest way to move to the next problem? Okay, this is something. Maybe I could also click that. Yeah, I can click arrows. A finish time between 10 and 15 minutes. That's very possible. Yeah, top left click. Now I see it. Now I do. Total. How did you make S? N modulo 2 will give you 1 bit. You can keep getting 1 bit like that. Given two numbers representing a range, total count of peaks and valleys. Digit is a peak if it's greater than neighbors. Total sum of this in the range, and the numbers are that big. I don't like that this is actually similar to the previous task. We're asked to iterate everything in the range, and here to think about this as a string with digits. S is to string of n, this time without changing to binary. And for every digit, we need to count if a digit is greater than both neighbors and maybe smaller than both neighbors. That seems quite similar to the previous task. For every digit, except the 0 and the last, because that would give you runtime errors, if s of I greater than the previous and greater than the next, this is good, like answer plus plus. And also, if it's smaller than both, answer plus plus. Accepted. I thought that usually the second problem is harder than this. Are we going to stream this contest regularly? I don't know. I'm only now back after months of not streaming, so we'll see about that. And be aware that on YouTube I will be slightly less active reading the chat because something doesn't work for my... Oh, so you see it on the screen above my head, but it's harder for me to see. In particular, I cannot highlight like this. So this thing for me in bottom left corner is only available for Twitch. I will fix it before next stream. You're given n and the target. Also, I'm guessing that from the title I could guess the statement. Lexicographically smallest negated permutation that sums to target. Okay, I cannot guess what is negated permutation. You're given n and the target. Find permutation, array of integers. The sum needs to be target. The absolute values of elements form a permutation of size n. So from 1 to n. Target will always be the sum of numbers from 1 to n. If not possible, return empty array. Definition. So I have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to n. I can insert negative signs somewhere, like -2, -4, -5, and the sum needs to be equal to the target. This is related to knapsack DP problem, but limits are big, 100,000, so you cannot go with normal knapsack solution. But usually if limits are big enough, then you can go with greedy instead of DP. DP works for small constraints often, and greedy for big constraints. So already this kind of heuristic way of thinking will suggest that, yeah, we should go with greedy. And here, changing between 1 and -1 will change the sum by 2. Changing between n and -n will change it by twice n. So it might be a better idea to actually think about numbers in this order. And greedily in this order for every number decide if it should be big or small. because with smaller numbers, it is easier to fix the exact value. Versus if you do it the other way, then you would maybe overshoot. So what I think is that we should create the sum that I have, and for every value from n down to 1, if I need to still increase, so if sum is smaller than the target, then I want to take I with positive sign, and answer push back I. Else I want to take it with negative sign. And at the end, if sum equals target, then return the answer vector, otherwise return empty vector. And this was supposed to be a comment. Now, if it will work, I will tell you a similar problem that I know. Incorrect. Target is 0, output. Oh, lexicographically smallest, of course. Lexicographically smallest. So I want the first value to be as small as possible. So when I first prioritize making negative n if possible. But if the target is, let's say, 0, and n is big, like n is 100, let's say 1000 or so, something of that magnitude, I can afford doing negative n minus 1, negative n minus 2, and so on. This still will be lexicographically small. I want to prioritize the first numbers to be as small as possible. As long as with the remaining values, I can still get to the target. So the logic will be slightly different. I will prioritize this thing, if possible. If possible, I will go with negative values. And here I will say this. If the sum minus this new value, still it's not small enough that I can not reach the target. If this plus the remaining values, if this is good enough that it's greater or equal than the target. Right? And by remaining, I mean, what if I, until the end, added all the values, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1? Because if this is still too small, then now I'm making mistakes using those small values. So, but if this is big enough, if now I can take negative, and the remaining value is smaller than I will take with a plus sign. If this is smaller than target, then it's not a good idea to use negative I. Yeah. Example of that is if, let's say, the current sum is 0, the target is, say, 15. And now I'm looking at value 5. If I do minus 5, and I then add all the remaining values, this is too small in total. It's plus 5. I want 15, so it's not a good idea to use negative 5. I need to use positive 5 to make a 15. And now for the remaining here is the sum of values smaller than I, and there is a formula for that. I think it can be a long. And finally, I prioritize first the small values, sure, but the positive values I need to put at the end. So I will make separate vector for positive pushback I, and those will be at the end of my vector. For everything in positive, sum pushback x, and not sum answer. Additional, I need to reverse it. Because if I want to do perfectly, I need to do something like that. A lot of negative values, maybe it looks like this, and then positive values. But if I do them in the same order, like so, this is not lexicographically smallest. This means that first numbers, they need to be as small as possible, and then the next number also needs to be as small as possible. Actually, this is unnecessarily complicated. I can sort at the end. Yeah, so never mind. Control Z a few times. This is still fine. Just let me sort. Theoretically, I add n log n to the time complexity, but it's so simple that I think it's stupid not to do it. To overcomplicate with linear solution. I didn't do the last 5-6 DP problems. Yeah, I'm aware. I need to, sorry about the white screen. In DP, I know that there are some problems remaining. Maybe I will do them tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. Zoom in a little bit. I mean, let's go with 150%. Did this also increase the font? Yes, it did. Let's go 150%. Here we go. And I told you that there is similar problem that I am aware. It's this. 2 sets. If you want to practice something similar, try that CSCS problem. It is about splitting permutation of numbers from 1 to n into 2 sets of positive values, and going from biggest to smallest values is one of the solutions. Okay, last problem. Oh, do I see correctly that on Twitch we have 40 viewers, on YouTube we have 150 viewers? Usually the stats are quite even, like it's half and half. So I wonder if that's usually the case, that people interested in LeetCode problems are more likely to view it on YouTube. Oh, maybe it's because it's the main channel. Yeah, that's the reason. Okay, never mind. 150 viewers. Yeah, but on Twitch it's 50 viewers, right? 50 and 150 on YouTube. Okay, last problem. Given 2 numbers, representing again a range. Wait, is the same problem? Okay, now the range is bigger. So it's the same problem as the second one, but we need to do digit DP. I do not believe that this is a good interview problem. It's such a skill check of can you do digit DP, nothing else. You cannot come up with a solution. It's the only way to solve this problem is to be good at digit dynamic programming. Yes, I do have multiple channels. I mean, I have 2 channels, no nukes. It's Erichto algorithms and Erichto hard algorithms. Okay, digit DP. Well, I will show you some tricks, but teaching here how to approach solving such a problem would take 1 hour, because it would need to be a lecture on digit dynamic programming. I'm sure if you search for digit dynamic programming, you will find some resources. Maybe not focus that much on coding interviews, because it's not common for coding interviews. Okay, so first trick is increase the second value by 1 and say that the answer is solve of it minus solve of the first value, where solve, what it does is it counts good numbers smaller than n. That's the first trick. If you need to count in range from 20 to 30, it's best to count up to 30 and subtract up to 19. I here say that, and instead what I did is I say I want to count smaller than 31, subtract smaller than 20 dot. That's it. YouTube is nice because you can rewind. On Twitch you need a sub. At least it used to be a case that there is an option on Twitch to rewind. You need to, I think, click the channel name, recent broadcasts. Yeah, and here you go. Here you can rewind on Twitch. It's just hidden. I'm guessing that Twitch wants live interaction mostly. So you can rewind on Twitch and increase the speed. You can do same things as on YouTube. It's just hard to realize. YouTube is, of course, more comfortable for that. You can also rewind live on few channels. You mean on Twitch it's only for some channels, not for all? Okay, so that was first trick. And now, if you have a number, like, how do I want to do it? Let's say we have number 427. One approach is that, let's see. We can, for example, we can go from left to right and always, let's make it longer. As I decide the digit and I decide the next digit and so on, I need to know what is the current count of peaks and valleys in the digits I already decided. Maybe let's do 175%. What is the current count of peaks and valleys? And when I will be deciding the next digit, I need to know if for example, I can put here an 8. I can put here an 8 if already this prefix was smaller than corresponding prefix of the main value, or maybe this is the same prefix 4271, and then I cannot do it. If this is 4271, I cannot use here 8 because I'm only investigating values smaller than n. So this is not a correct digit. So one way to handle that is in DP to have the position or the index of which digit I'm looking at now, and Boolean information 0 or 1 whether the prefix so far is smaller than the corresponding prefix in n. Okay, I need to also know the count of peaks and valleys. And to know if the next digit that I'm inserting is a peak or a valley, it seems that we need to also know its value. So if I put here a 5, I need to know, maybe I should know the last 2 digits. Because if I'm here inserting, let's think about it this way. I'm building unknown number one by one, and here I'm inserting digit 8. Should I increase the count of peaks and valleys by 1? Well, it depends on those 2 digits. If those 3 digits in total, let's say this is unknown A and this is unknown B, and now I'm inserting 8. If they are in a relation where B is smaller than the other 2, or B is greater than the other 2, then I should increase the answer by 1. So I think that we need the 1 digit and the other digit. Those are this maybe last digit and last digit 2. The 2 last digits. Then I iterate the next digit to add, and that's it. There are some alternatives to this dimension, but generally that's the way to solve it. Yes, Brett, I agree that if you know the comparison between those two, like this is 5 and this is 2, the comparison is enough. But I would need to remember one of the 3 values, whether it's greater or equal or smaller. Is that better? So instead of 10 values, I can here store 3, and it will be harder to code. I think I prefer to do it this way, but I agree, so good point, that I could just remember the inequality between them, so which is greater, and know the last digit. Still not a nice problem and a terrible interview problem. Okay, and now I will have a lot of dimensions, and I can really get rid of those two with some tricks. For count also, you can do it with some combinatorics on a suffix, but I don't think that's expected. So it seems we will have a lot of dimensions. And in this particular case, when we have so many dimensions, I actually go for a define to decrease the number of mistakes I'm making my for loops. I'm going to do for of I comma n. This will be for I is 0, I smaller than n, I plus plus. Just with this, you will not repeat that much stuff and you will make fewer mistakes, I think. In LeetCode, there are multiple test cases where they run your program, so you shouldn't really use arrays too much. But making 5-dimensional vector is not very nice either. So I think we need to go with an array. This is dp of how long the numbers can be, up to 16 or so. Count also like that, last digit, second last digit. Time complexity should be fine, it is product of all those values. At the beginning of solve, I'm going to clear the array. C++, clear the array. Not this kind of array. I'm looking for memset, because I don't think I have array of this kind. Or fill. I want to do something with memset and size of. No, will it work? Does this work for multi-dimensional arrays? That actually is a good question to ask ChatGPT, but let me just do this. I17, J2, K17, L10, M10, dp of I, J, K, L, M is 0. This is why the define is very useful in such a situation. I've used 4. Memset will work. Okay then. Memset the array 0 size of array. Then no need for that. Don't I use LLM? I don't use LLM for solving problems. How much math do I require in order to become master or grandmaster in code forces? There is no particular value. If you think you lack in math, you need to grab a math book or just find something online like Khan Academy videos and go study some math. Okay, now we start with 0 digits. We are not smaller. The count is 0. The last 2 digits are... What are the last 2 digits? I think this shouldn't matter. So let's say there is one way to start like that, though the 2 last digits are tricky. Then I need the length of n. I think I need to represent n as a string. And now for every I up to the length, I think I would prefer to do it this way. 0 up to length. Is that fine? I think so. For I iterate digits of n. I also can have a prefix of leading zeros, and does that matter at all? It can even be an extra dimension. That's also annoying. I thought we could just fix the value of current index and either make it valley or peak. Okay, Anuj Gupta suggests something that is worth investigating. Maybe we don't need DP, maybe it's not such an annoying problem. We could instead think about a number that it is of some form, it has some number of digits. We can iterate every position and wonder in how many scenarios this is a peak. If this is a peak that looks, let's say, like this, then I only need to figure out the number of ways to fill the remaining digits. And that seems possible to do. Still, it has some requirements. I need to make sure that this does not exceed the value of n given to us. But it will be a solution without dp, if we can handle the math. No, inclusion and exclusion is not needed here. This is just counting. So instead of all of this, okay, let me copy the code. I think if I modify here, it's not modified here. Great. Okay. So we have, let's say, backup of the code. I'm going to try to do it without dp. I think it's way more interesting. Thank you, Gupta, for the suggestion. You want to improve at ICPC? You need to practice ICPC. To start LeetCode, you guys recommend, yeah, blind 75 problem set is good. It's perfectly fun. Yes, you can do that. Okay, let's try to do it without dp. Likely also without this for loop then. Still this. I want to I investigate values smaller than n. I'm considering a number of some length. So this is length of n. Let's call this n length or string length. I want a number. For something to be a value, it needs to have at least 3 digits. So I iterate the length of that number that I will investigate. Now inside of it, I want to see a valley or a peak. For every position, for every possible position for this valley or a peak, there is some number of ways to choose a digit here and its neighbors. Let's iterate those 3 digits. Previous digit. Actually, I keep making those for loops, so it will be better to just do this. Previous digit, this digit, next digit. If b is greater than both, or b is smaller than both, this is a peak or a valley, and I need to count it. In how many numbers will this be counted as a valley or peak? For that, I need to count number of ways to fill the remaining digits. So my situation is that I iterated length of a number. I now have ABC. There is some remaining suffix, and I wonder how many ways there are to fill those. If the number n looks like this, let's say 4, 7, 1, 3, and then something. If this is number n, then there is here roughly 4,713 ways to fill this. But what is it exactly? Well, it also will depend on comparison of those 3 versus ABC. I also need this to be at least 1 because I iterated length. Maybe I don't need to iterate length. I can say that this is a 0, leading 0. But then it will depend whether a is 0 or not. So just I don't want this prefix to be all zeros. That cannot be counted. Somebody said at the beginning that I should solve everything in 10 to 15 minutes. So no, this problem is harder than that. Before I code, let me remind you that on LeetCode currently there is this promo for next year of subscription, $40 off. And if you want to use it, please consider using my code, which is this one. I will now paste in the chat. Where is Twitch? LeetCode. Yeah, this also, it is in YouTube description. Still, I will paste. So use this thing to get $40 off and get me some commission. I see a comment using power. Yeah, the 4,700 something. Just don't multiply it by power. And it will matter if this. Okay, let's try to do it fast. So even without that, for every position, let's say this is length. For every position, iterate the 3 digits. And now the prefix needs to be smaller than 4,713. And off by 1 will depend on the comparison of those 3 digits versus ABC. First, I need to get the value of this prefix. Okay, no, I don't want to do it this way. It's too ugly. I'm going to show you another trick regarding digit DP. If number n is, let's say, 4, 2, 1, 6, numbers smaller than it can be grouped into something that starts with 0 and then anything, starts with 1 and then anything, starts with 2 anything, 3 anything, then 4, 0 anything, 4, 1 anything, 4, 2, 0, and so on. For every digit, I wonder what exactly it will be. And if for every digit I iterate at this position, what smaller digit I can use, and everything so far was the same as the prefix in the number n. This is the number n given to us. The number that I want to count numbers smaller than it. Then if I split I can split the values smaller than n into such groups. And now I don't need to worry about any kind of comparison. I just want to count number of peaks and valleys coming from something like this. And this is what I'm going to do. I will here iterate the digit that I will change. I will iterate this digit s of I minus 0. So this digit needs to be smaller. Everything so far needs to be exactly the same as in the string s. And everything later can be arbitrary. From now on, I don't care about comparisons. Okay, makes sense. Now, I focus on something like that. I don't care about smaller than n. I just have a group like this. And I need to now iterate number of peaks and valleys. I will move this here. Now this is, let's say, j, the position where I want to count peak or valley. This is just the I was digit that is first digit that is smaller than in the number n. This is now what this digit is. Then I iterate the peaks and valleys, if this. Now I need to check if the ABC agrees with the string s. And I need to check how many question marks are still available to be anything. And I need to care a little bit about about the zeros. Let's turn this into string s. Let's make a copy called t. Now t of this digit, t of this is this digit plus 0. Everything after that, t of j is equal question mark. Now string t literally looks like this. It is some prefix and then question marks. I now need to here do something like this. If t of j minus 1, if the previous digit is not question mark, so it needs to be something special, something particular, and a, which is the digit I want to place before, is not equal to t of j minus 1 minus 0, this is bad. Continue. So I want to place the digit a somewhere, but right now another digit is required there. Similarly, if this is not a question mark, it's a digit that I want, and b is not equal to it, then continue, and next digit. Now I know that A, B, C are okay. One more thing is that I cannot count something if A is a leading 0. So I'm not happy with everything up to A including being zeros. Also, it cannot be first question mark, that is also a 0. I want before to see something that is not a 0. Non-zero is equal false. For everything from 0 up to position j, if t of k is not 0 and t of k is not question mark, then non-zero is true. I think it's maybe slightly more complicated. If the string t is equal to maybe 0 and then question marks, and my ABC are here, and A is a 0, so I know that this is a 0, then I want in this prefix not to have only zeros. So in this scenario, I will subtract 1 from the count of this prefix turns into what? But still this code might work. So if this happens, if in the prefix up to position of A there is a non-zero, then this. If A is not a 0, then also that. And finally, in this situation, I know that prefix before me, there is one way that I cannot count. Okay, now prefix is equal 1, suffix equals 1. What is number of ways to fill the prefix and suffix? For everything up to the position of j, if t of k, j minus 1, because the previous digit is fixed. If t of k is equal to question mark, then prefix times equal 10, because there are 10 digits that I can put there. For everything onward, after position j plus 1, if t of k is equal to question mark, then suffix multiply. If not non-zero, then prefix minus minus, because I cannot fill prefix with only zeros. And finally, what? Answer plus equal prefix times suffix. Let me decrease the font for a moment. Return answer. Answer starts as 0, run. That was just a comment. Output free, okay. Oh, accepted. I did not expect that. Why you need VPN? Is that the question to me? If it's only because you saw a logo of VPN, then very rarely from time to time I need VPN, but usually it's off. For example, when I want to see how a website looks like from another country. So I used Stripe in the past, Stripe for processing payments. And in Stripe, you can set payments to depend on the country of the payee, the country of person who pays. And I wanted to see what will be displayed for somebody who is located in India. That's why I used VPN. In the future, if I I see somebody keeps spamming on YouTube. Sorry, I'm hide user and put user in timeout. Please do not spam. Yeah, VPNs generally are over advertised. They are not evil, but I don't like the ads. If there is a VPN company that doesn't force me to say something scammy during an ad, I might even be sponsored by a VPN company in the future. But most of the ads, 99% of the ads of VPN are so stupid. Like, increase your privacy, make yourself safe from hackers. I mean, usually if somebody hacks your account, it's not because you didn't use VPN. Okay, I will summarize the solution and then I will finish the stream for today. Let's look at the time complexity, by the way. We have the length, so like 15 or log of n times another, no, this is not nested. This is nested. Okay, so we have length times 10 cubic and times some for loops of size length. So it seems my time complexity is length third times 10 third. Length here is decimal logarithm of the input value. 10 is the size of the base. So that's the time complexity. And for sure it can be improved. In particular, it's very stupid that here I iterate triples ABC. This can be optimized, maybe even to constant. I don't know. So I can believe that for length up to 500, no, maybe 100, it can be solved. But this is my time complexity. I will now explain the solution and then go home. I mean, stop the stream. Counting, fixing the current index if that's okay. I do that. In Python, I did this. 1000 is a constant, of course. 1000 is a constant, so actually it's len cubic. Length of 15 is also a constant, so actually it's all O of 1. Okay, so let me draw something. Okay, how we solve this Q4 problem? Let's say that I want to count values in a range from 0 to this much exclusive. I focus on this value, the upper limit. I want to count values smaller than it. I can iterate in the value that I will count. What is the first digit that is smaller than this number? For example, the number can look like this, 238, 3, and then whatever. Every number of this form is smaller than that. Okay, now I focus on that. I iterate the position where I will have smaller digit and the actual digit from 0 to 9 minus 1. Now I want to count this. Count peaks and valleys in numbers of this form. And I forget about n. I only focus on this. That's my new subproblem. How I do that? Every peak and valley will be at some position, call it B, maybe here B. It can be any of those positions where peak or valley is. Let's call the previous digit A, the next digit C. I iterate over the position where this will happen, the peak or valley, and always I iterate what will be, I wonder, this digit, what will be next digit, what will be previous digit. Let's call them ABC. I iterate all triples. Then I check if there is no contradiction already. If I tried A equals 7, B equals 8, C equals 9, then this is not peak or valley, B is between of AC. If this is the triple, then, well, B is the peak, but this is not a good triple because if I put it here, then I know that A needs to be exactly 3. So I also check that, and this would be ignored as a possibility. This is a good triple. 385 is a good triple. How many peaks and valleys are in numbers of this form such that ABC are 3, 8, and 5? Well, all those digits are fixed. Those are not fixed. There are 3 of them. So I claim that the number of possibilities it's 10 to the power 3. 10 cubic. 10 cubic, which is 1000. If instead ABC are, say, here, I consider the triple 383, then what is number of such numbers that will have such a peak here? Well, 10 to the power 5. I need to count question marks. There is some small issue of what happens if, let's say, this first digit will be, say, 0. When I have, say, this, I don't want to count a triple that looks like that. When I investigate numbers of this form, I cannot allow A to be 0, B to be 8, and C to be 3, because that would correspond to this number. And in this number, 8 is not a peak. The statement specifies that the first digit of a number cannot be a peak. After those leading zeros, 8 is the first real digit. So that's not legal. And also I did something like this. I don't even know if this is possible, if that was for sure needed, but also here, like this cannot be a 0 if this is a 0. So what I did is, in such situation, I separately counted the size of this prefix versus suffix. And if in this prefix, including the digit A, everything is 0 or question mark, then I know that one possibility here should be excluded. Let's maybe look at this scenario. I claim that now the number of ways to finish this number, so that this would be a legal number and this would be a peak, is that this is 100 multiplied by 5, so 5 zeros. But in this prefix, I cannot replace both question marks to a value of 0. So 100, I subtract 1 from it to say those cannot both be 0. There are 99 possibilities to fill them so that they wouldn't be both 0, because if they are both 0, then this is not really a peak. If you heard something a moment ago, it was my dog. So this is by how much I should increase the answer. And this leading zeros thing is very annoying. I think it's very easy to miss. What's my LeetCode ID? It's same as channel name, Erichta. Can I in some way show that? Yeah, this is my LeetCode account. I'm not really an active LeetCode user. Did I ever win? In 2019, I participated a few times in LeetCode contest. I see that I got second place, 21st, 65th place, and second. 3 times I was second. Did I never win? I thought that I won one of the LeetCode contests. Maybe it was the case that I won, but afterwards maybe Chinese leaderboard was updated, and because of that I dropped to second. So I remember seeing myself winning one of the rounds. Well, what does Erichta mean? Nothing, sadly. It doesn't have any meaning. It was available when I was a kid and I opened my first account somewhere. I don't work in Google. If you assume that because of my t-shirt, which you cannot see, I have a Code Jam Google t-shirt only because I participated in that contest. And I was also second in Google Code Jam. A reason why you did this instead of that? No reason, but, well, a small reason. Try numbers smaller than n. This function is a little bit simpler than this one. Try numbers smaller than or equal to n. I prefer to go with the first one because then the logic for iterating those smaller numbers is consistent, versus this one you usually have an extra if, and that answers your question. Where do I work? I mostly teach, so I don't work for one company. Partially I work for Huawei, but it's also just some, collaboration, organizing things for them. And do I go to the gym? No, at least not currently. I play volleyball. Okay, so once again, thanks to Gupta, I don't remember the full name. Somebody in the chat suggested this solution where I don't do dynamic programming and instead we iterate. I wonder, does LeetCode show description? Can I, just after the contest, see the official solution? What about this? I cannot even copy. Can I? Cannot copy the title. Total waviness of numbers in range 2. Total waviness of numbers in range 2. LeetCode. No. Okay, total waviness doesn't exist. So there is no editorial yet, right? No editorial. Okay, got it. Maybe if I do more of LeetCode in the next few months or weeks, I will try to cover more problems from recent contests. We'll see. You pasted a link, but now what will I see if I open it? Yeah, but there is no editorial. What is happening? I hope nobody gets sick from looking at this, but it's not my fault. Well, anyway, there is no official solution. So that's it for me today. I spent a lot of time on Q4. If this was a contest where I didn't talk and I only tried to get accepted as fast as I could, I would go with DP because I did not get that idea to just iterate the position and then try to count everything else. In a competitive programming contest, I think I would get that idea, not in this setting. You can see other code submission there, but that could take a lot of time to see what others did. I want to thank everybody for watching today. The stream was 1 hour, and I know that I didn't explain everything in detail. Maybe I will do more streams in the next few weeks where I actually teach you stuff rather than just solve problems and talk a little bit while solving. Today, I know I rushed through the first 3 problems, and for the 4th one, if you don't know how to solve problems like this, it wasn't really a full lecture, a full walkthrough of how you should do it, because that just takes more time. Please, if you are interested in LeetCode Premium, then please use my link, which is this. For the next few days, you get $40 off. And I think we'll see each other tomorrow again. Maybe I will not do LeetCode problems, or, well, there is a LeetCode weekly, right? In the night of Saturday to Sunday. So tomorrow, either I will continue with LeetCode problems, or maybe I will do the DP problems from here. CSCS DP, yeah, this thing. I did some streams 3 months ago where I solved most of the DP problems from CSCS, but not all of them. I will decide before tomorrow what to do, but this thing I will do within the next week, maybe tomorrow. And do I think I would finish in under 15 minutes? I would need to be lucky with getting everything right first time in that DP problem. Q4 implementation, like let's say at full speed, I would finish before the 15 minutes, including the solving of problems 1, 2, 3. But usually in a problem that complicated, in case of the DP code, most likely I would get some bugs. And with bugs, I would exceed 15 minutes. Will I absolve the upcoming Division 1+2? Not for the next week. For the next week, I will focus on LeetCode. All right, so thank you again for watching. Sorry for not being able to read everything from the YouTube chat. And have a good rest of your weekend. See you tomorrow, similar time.